Welcome back, everyone. To kick things off, it's a fun idea if you tell me where you're tuning in from in the comments. Thank you. Please like and subscribe. Now let's relax and start the show. I leave the office earlier than usual, feeling good about the surprise I have planned. It's a hot day, one of those August afternoons when the air feels thick and heavy, like it's pressing down on you. My shirt sticks to my back as I drive home, imagining the look on Jessica's face when I tell her about the dinner reservations at that fancy new place downtown. She's been stressed lately, and I thought a nice evening out might help us reconnect. Our marriage has been solid. At least, that's what I've always believed. We met in college, and it wasn't long before we knew we were meant to be together. She's beautiful, smart, and ambitious, the kind of woman any man would be lucky to have. We've built a good life together, a nice house in the suburbs, decent jobs, and enough money to not worry about the little things. Lately, though, something's been off. She's been distant, more absorbed in her phone, more secretive. I've asked her about it, but she just blames work. I let it slide, telling myself it's just a phase. I pull into our driveway and notice that her car is there. I didn't expect her to be home this early, but I'm glad. It means I can surprise her right away. I head inside, calling out her name, but there's no response. The house feels too quiet, almost eerie, the kind of quiet that makes you uneasy without knowing why. I walk through the rooms, checking the kitchen, the living room. Empty. Then I hear it, a faint splash, like someone diving into a pool. My heart skips a beat. The sound is coming from the neighbor's backyard. I hesitate, confusion mixing with a sudden, inexplicable dread. The neighbors are supposed to be out of town. Why would anyone be in their pool? Curiosity gets the better of me, and I step out the back door, creeping toward the fence that separates our yards. As I approach, the splashing stops, replaced by low voices, a man's voice deep and smug, and a woman's laugh that sends a chill down my spine. I know that laugh. I reach the fence and peer over, and that's when I see them. Jessica, my wife, naked in the pool with our neighbor, John. He's grinning like he's won some kind of prize, his arm around her waist as she clings to him. She sees me first, her eyes widening in shock and horror, but she doesn't move. She just freezes, like a deer caught in headlights. But John, he has the audacity to smirk at me, like he's proud of what he's done. He says something, but the blood roaring in my ears drowns it out. I don't need to hear it to know it's something vile. Everything in me goes cold. I feel my hands clench into fists, my vision narrowing until all I see is him, that smug bastard. I can't believe what I'm seeing. This is the moment everything changes. I stand there frozen, my mind trying to catch up with what I'm seeing. My wife Jessica is naked in the pool with our neighbor John. They're tangled together like they've been doing this for a long time, and suddenly it feels like the ground beneath me is slipping away. I want to believe it's a mistake, a hallucination brought on by the heat or stress, but the smirk on John's face tells me this is all too real. He looks at me like he's won some sick game, his eyes gleaming with triumph. "Found a way to beat the heat," he says, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Using your wife. Want to join?" Something inside me snaps. The rage is immediate, blinding, like a tidal wave crashing over everything else. I lunge at him, my vision narrowing to just him. That smug bastard who thinks he can take everything from me and get away with it. My fist connects with his jaw, and the sound is a dull thud, but it's not enough. I want to tear him apart, to make him pay for every second he's touched her. Jessica screams, but it's like background noise, barely registering. I grab John by the throat, pushing him against the pool edge, water sloshing over the sides as he struggles. His eyes widen, fear finally replacing that smirk. Good. He should be scared. I tighten my grip, feeling his pulse hammering under my fingers, and for a split second I consider ending it right here, right now, but then I see Jessica, her face twisted in terror, and something inside me falters. She's crying, begging me to stop, her voice shaking. "Please, just stop. It's not what you think." "Not what I think?" I almost laugh, but it comes out as a bitter, broken sound. Not what I think. You're screwing him in our neighbor's pool, Jessica. What the hell am I supposed to think? She doesn't answer, just sobs, her hands clutching at the sides of the pool like she's holding on for dear life. John's struggling weakly now, his face turning red, but I can't bring myself to let go just yet. Part of me wants to end him, to feel his life slip away under my hands. But another part, the part that used to love my wife, the part that still remembers how she smiled on our wedding day, holds me back. I release him, and he collapses, coughing and sputtering, gasping for air. I'm breathing hard, my chest heaving with the effort to keep myself in check. Jessica tries to reach out to me, but I step back, shaking my head. I can't look at her right now, can't stand the sight of her. Why, Jessica? My voice cracks, raw with emotion. Why would you do this? She's shaking, wrapping her arms around herself like she's cold, even though the air is sweltering. I'm sorry, she whispers, but it doesn't feel like enough. I didn't mean for this to happen. I bark out a laugh, harsh and humorless. You didn't mean for this to happen? How the hell does that make it any better? She looks down, unable to meet my gaze, and that's when I realize how deep the betrayal goes. This isn't some one-time mistake. This is something more. Something she's been hiding from me for God knows how long. The anger that was momentarily tempered by shock flares up again, but this time it's colder, more calculating. I step back, turning away from her, from them. I need to get out of here before I do something I can't take back. My hands are still shaking, and my mind is a chaotic mess of thoughts, each one darker than the last. I walk out of the backyard, hearing Jessica calling after me, but I don't stop. I can't stop. If I do, I'll be lost. The drive home is a blur. I don't even remember getting into my car, but suddenly I'm in the driveway, staring at the house that no longer feels like home. I slam the door behind me, the noise echoing through the empty rooms. My thoughts are spiraling, anger mixing with heartbreak, betrayal with a dark, twisted sense of revenge. I want to hurt them like they've hurt me, make them feel the pain that's tearing me apart. I grab a bottle of whiskey from the cabinet, not bothering with a glass. The burn as it goes down is a welcome distraction, something to focus on besides the images of Jessica and John that keep playing in my mind. I take another swig and another until the edges of my vision start to blur. I try to think rationally, to figure out what to do next, but all I can see is that smirk on John's face, that look of triumph as he defiled everything I held sacred. And Jessica, her betrayal cuts deeper than anything I've ever felt. She was supposed to be mine, my partner, my everything, and now she's just gone. I pace the room, the alcohol fueling my anger rather than dulling it. I think about going to the police, about filing for divorce, but those options seem so passive. I want something more immediate, more satisfying. I want them to pay. My phone buzzes, breaking through the fog of my thoughts. It's a text from Jessica. I don't want to read it, but I can't help myself. Her words blur together, the apology, the excuses, all of it meaningless now. I throw the phone across the room, watching it shatter against the wall. I sit down heavily on the couch, head in my hands. The whiskey bottle dangles loosely from my fingers, and I take another long drink, feeling the warmth spread through me, numbing the edges of my rage. I know I should be thinking clearly, making plans, but all I can do is replay that moment in the pool over and over, the image seared into my mind. Hours pass, the light outside fading into darkness. I'm alone in the house, the silence oppressive, suffocating. I keep expecting her to walk through the door, to try and explain herself, but deep down I know there's nothing she can say that will make this right. I need to get out of here. Staying in this house, surrounded by memories of what we used to have, is driving me insane. I grab my keys, stumbling a bit as I head for the door. The night air is cool against my heated skin, and I take a deep breath, trying to clear my head. I don't know where I'm going, but anywhere is better than here. I find myself driving aimlessly, the streets deserted at this hour. My mind keeps circling back to one thing: revenge. I can't let them get away with this. They've destroyed everything and I need to make them pay. I start thinking about ways to hurt them, to ruin their lives the way they've ruined mine. I pull over to the side of the road, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The more I think about it, the more I realize that going to the police isn't enough. John will just weasel his way out of it. And Jessica, well, she'll play the victim, won't she? I need to handle this myself. Make sure they understand the consequences of their actions. I drive back towards the neighborhood, parking a few blocks away from the house. The night is quiet, the only sound my footsteps on the pavement as I approach the house. I stay in the shadows, watching, waiting. I'm not sure what I'm waiting for, but I know that when the moment comes, I'll be ready. My thoughts are dark, twisted, but they bring a strange sense of calm. For the first time since I walked into that backyard, I feel like I have control, like I can take back what was stolen from me. Jessica and John think they've won, but they don't know who they're dealing with. They have no idea what I'm capable of. As I stand there, hidden in the darkness, a plan begins to form in my mind. It's risky, dangerous even, but the more I think about it, the more it feels right. This isn't about getting even. It's about making sure they never forget the price of their betrayal. I turn and walk back to my car, the anger inside me now a cold, steady burn. They won't see me coming, but when I'm done, they'll wish they had. I start watching him. John. I know his routines now. He leaves for work at 7:30 sharp, comes home around 6, sometimes later if he's entertaining someone, which apparently isn't just limited to my wife. I find myself parked a few houses down, my car blending into the neighborhood, a place where everyone pretends everything is fine while the dirt is just beneath the surface. I'm not sure what I'm looking for, but each day it becomes clearer that John is more than just a neighbor. He's a predator. It's in the way he moves, the way he interacts with others. I see it in his eyes, in the casual touch of his hand on a woman's arm, a touch that lingers just a bit too long. I see it in the way he smiles, that same smirk that's etched into my mind, the one he gave me when he was with Jessica in that pool. Jessica. She's not home much lately. When she is, it's like she's a ghost, moving through the house without making a sound, avoiding me. I've tried to confront her, to get some answers, but she shuts down every time. It's like she's someone else now, someone I don't recognize. The woman I married is gone, replaced by a stranger who shares her face but none of her warmth. I can't even bring myself to touch her. The thought of it makes my skin crawl, knowing where she's been, who she's been with. I follow John when he leaves the house. I need to know more, to find out what else he's hiding. I start digging into his life, searching for anything that will give me an edge. It doesn't take long to find it. He's been meeting someone, a woman, at a motel across town. It's not Jessica, but she's not his wife either. I watch them, the way they interact, the way they disappear into that room like they've done it 100 times before. My stomach turns, but I feel a strange sense of satisfaction. I'm not the only one he's screwing over. Back home, I confront Jessica again. This time, I'm not asking. I'm demanding answers. She tries to brush me off, but I grab her arm, pulling her to face me. You're not leaving this room until you tell me what the hell is going on. Her eyes are cold, distant. There's nothing to tell, Tom. It just happened. I didn't plan it. I laugh, but it's a bitter, hollow sound. Didn't plan it? You've been sneaking around with him for God knows how long, and you expect me to believe it just happened? She pulls away, rubbing her arm where I grabbed her, and I feel a flicker of guilt before it's drowned out by the anger simmering inside me. You don't understand, she says quietly. It's not just about him. It's about us, about what we've become. What we've become, I repeat, incredulous. This isn't about us, Jessica. This is about you and him. This is about betrayal. She looks at me, then really looks at me, and I see something there that I didn't expect. Pity. We haven't been happy in a long time, Tom. You just didn't want to see it. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I want to argue, to tell her she's wrong, but deep down I know she's not. We haven't been happy. Not really. But that doesn't excuse what she's done, what they've done. So this is my fault? You screwing the neighbor is my fault? She sighs, and for the first time, I see the exhaustion in her eyes. It's not about fault. It's just, I don't know, maybe we lost each other a long time ago. Her words hang in the air, heavy and suffocating. I want to lash out, to hurt her the way she's hurt me, but I feel drained, like the fight has gone out of me. Is it over? I ask finally. With him? She hesitates, and that tells me everything I need to know. She doesn't answer, and I don't push her. I can't deal with this right now. I need to focus, to figure out what to do next. I go back to watching John, but it's not just about him anymore. It's about all of them. The more I dig, the more I realize this isn't just an affair. It's a network, a web of lies and deceit that stretches far beyond my marriage. It's the neighborhood, the people I thought I knew. They're all involved in one way or another. It's like a sickness spreading quietly, infecting everything it touches. One night, as I sit in my car outside John's house, I notice something. A black SUV parked a few houses down. I've seen it before, but never thought much of it. Now I watch it closely and something clicks. It's not just there by coincidence. It's watching, just like I am. I start noticing other things too. A man at the grocery store who seems to be there every time I am. A woman jogging by my house, her pace slowing as she passes by. They're watching me, just like I'm watching John. It's unsettling, the feeling of being observed, of being a target. I start to wonder if they know what I'm planning, if they're trying to scare me off. But it doesn't work. If anything, it fuels my resolve. They're hiding something, and I'm going to find out what it is. John's smug confidence begins to make sense now. He's not just a sleazy neighbor who's having an affair with my wife. He's part of something bigger, something that gives him power, makes him feel untouchable. But he's wrong. Everyone has a weakness, and I'm going to find his. The pieces start falling into place, and I realize that this isn't just about Jessica anymore. It's about exposing them all, tearing down the facade they've built. I start gathering evidence, careful to keep my distance, not to tip them off. I need proof, something that will bring them down, not just in the eyes of the law, but in the court of public opinion. They've built their lives on lies, and I'm going to strip it all away. But the more I dig, the more dangerous it becomes. I'm not just dealing with affairs and petty betrayals. There's money involved, and power, and people who will do anything to protect their secrets. I start getting messages, veiled threats telling me to back off. I ignore them, pushing forward, but the tension is rising. I can feel it, like a storm brewing just over the horizon. One night as I'm leaving the house, I notice my tires have been slashed. It's a message, clear and unmistakable. They're not playing games anymore, but neither am I. I replace the tires, keep my head down, and continue with my plan. If they think a few threats are going to scare me off, they're dead wrong. I start leaving earlier for work, coming home later, keeping odd hours. Jessica notices, but she doesn't say anything. Maybe she doesn't care, or maybe she's just too wrapped up in her own guilt. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're like two strangers living in the same house, passing each other by without really seeing each other. But then, something shifts. One night, Jessica comes to me, her eyes red like she's been crying. She sits down next to me, too close for comfort, and I can smell the faint scent of her perfume, the one she wore when we first started dating. It's like a punch to the gut, a reminder of what we used to be. I ended it, she says quietly, not looking at me, with John. I don't respond, not sure what she expects me to say. That I'm proud of her, that it changes anything. It doesn't, not for me. I'm sorry, she continues, her voice trembling. I know I've hurt you, Tom. I know I've ruined everything. The anger that's been simmering in me for weeks flares up again, hot and fierce. Ruined everything? You think an apology is going to fix this? She looks up at me then, and for a moment, I see the woman I fell in love with, the one who used to smile at me like I was her whole world. But that woman is gone, replaced by someone I barely recognize. I just, I wanted you to know. I know it doesn't change anything, but I thought you should know. I turn away, unable to look at her. It's too late for that, Jessica. It's too late for everything. She doesn't say anything else, just sits there for a moment longer before getting up and leaving the room. I listen to her footsteps fading away, the sound echoing in the silence of the house. I thought I wanted her to end it with John, that it would make me feel better. But all it does is leave me feeling empty. The damage is done, and there's no going back. Not for us, not for any of them. I've crossed a line, and there's no turning back now. The pieces are in place, and it's only a matter of time before everything comes crashing down. The plan is in motion. I've spent weeks laying the groundwork, carefully, methodically, so nothing can go wrong. I've learned everything there is to know about John, his schedule, his habits, the people he's close to. I've followed Jessica's every move, watching her try to piece together her broken life while I've been tearing it apart in the shadows. This isn't about anger anymore. It's about control, about making them feel the way they made me feel, helpless, violated. Tonight it all comes to a head. I've set the trap, and now it's time to spring it. It starts with an anonymous tip to the police. I've crafted a story so twisted, so convincing, that they won't be able to ignore it. I tell them about John, the charming neighbor who isn't what he seems, about the drugs hidden in his basement, the shady deals he's been making on the side. I give them details, just enough to pique their interest, to make them want to dig deeper. It's all lies, of course, but it's built on a foundation of truth that's impossible to dismiss. I know when the raid will happen. I've timed it perfectly, right when John's supposed to be meeting with one of his many mistresses at a cheap motel across town. I watch from a distance as the police swarm his house, their lights flashing in the night, a spectacle for the whole neighborhood to see. They'll find nothing, of course. I made sure of that, but the damage will be done. The suspicion, the whispers, it'll follow him, tainting everything he's built. But that's just the beginning. I've planted evidence in John's car, documents that tie him to offshore accounts, to illegal activities that will raise more questions than he can answer. By the time the police finish with him, his life will be in ruins. No one will look at him the same way again. He'll be a pariah, just like I felt when I saw him with Jessica. Jessica, she's the real target tonight. John is just the bait, the tool I'm using to destroy her, the way she destroyed me. I've been watching her, waiting for the right moment, and now it's here. I've invited her to dinner, a final attempt to work things out. She was reluctant at first, but I played my part well, apologetic, sincere, the husband who wants to make things right. I chose a restaurant out of town, somewhere isolated, away from prying eyes. She agreed, thinking it might be the start of something new, but I have no intention of letting her walk away from this unscathed. We sit across from each other, the candlelight flickering between us, casting shadows on her face. She looks nervous, unsure, and I can't help but feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. She should be nervous. She has no idea what's coming. "I'm glad we're doing this," she says, her voice soft, tentative. "I've missed us, Tom." "I know things haven't been easy, but maybe we can—" I cut her off, leaning forward, my voice low and controlled. "Did you think I wouldn't find out, Jessica?" She freezes, her eyes widening as the color drains from her face. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb," I hiss, barely keeping my voice in check. "I know everything. About John, about the others." She shakes her head, her hands trembling as she reaches for her wine glass. "Tom, I don't know what you—" I grab her wrist, hard enough to make her flinch. "Don't lie to me. You think I haven't been watching? You think I don't know know what you've been doing behind my back?" Tears fill her eyes, but I don't let go. I want her to feel this, to understand that there's no escaping what she's done. "It's over," I say, my voice deadly calm. "I'm done playing your games. You've ruined everything, and now you're going to pay for it." She tries to pull away, but I tighten my grip, leaning in closer so she can't look away. "I loved you, Jessica. I would have done anything for you, but you threw it all away for what? A fling? Some cheap thrill? Her tears spill over, but I don't feel anything. The part of me that loved her, that cared about her, died the moment I saw her in that pool with John. Please, she whispers, her voice breaking. I'm sorry, Tom. I never meant to hurt you. I laugh, a cold, bitter sound that cuts through her like a knife. It's too late for that. I'm going to destroy you, Jessica, just like you destroyed me. I release her, and she pulls back, clutching her wrist, her eyes wide with fear. She knows now. She knows there's no way out. We finish dinner in silence, the tension so thick it's suffocating. She tries to apologize again, to explain, but I don't want to hear it. I've heard enough. I pay the bill, leaving a generous tip for the waiter, and we leave the restaurant. She follows me to the car, her steps hesitant, like she's walking to her own execution. The drive home is silent, the air between us heavy with unspoken words. I can feel her glancing at me, searching for some sign of the man she used to know, but he's gone. I keep my eyes on the road, my mind focused on what comes next. When we get home, I lead her inside, locking the door behind us. She looks at me, her eyes pleading, but I ignore her, heading upstairs to the bedroom. She follows, her steps slow, reluctant. I can feel her fear, her uncertainty, and it fuels me. In the bedroom, I turn to face her, my expression cold, detached. Take off your clothes. She hesitates, and for a moment I think she's going to refuse. But then she does as I ask, her movement slow, her eyes never leaving mine. I watch her, my pulse quickening, a dark thrill running through me as she stands there, vulnerable, exposed. Get on the bed, I order, my voice hard. She obeys, lying down on the bed, her body tense, trembling. I strip off my own clothes, my eyes never leaving hers. I can see the fear in her eyes, the uncertainty, and it only makes me want her more. But this isn't about love or passion. This is about control, about making her feel as helpless as I did. I move over her, my hands rough, demanding. She gasps, her body arching under mine, but I don't let up. I take her hard, fast, my anger driving me, pushing me to the edge. She cries out, but I don't stop. Don't slow down. I need her to feel this, to understand that she's mine, that she can't escape what she's done. When it's over, I pull away, leaving her lying there, her body shaking, her eyes filled with tears. I don't feel anything. No satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness. I get dressed, ignoring her as she curls up on the bed, sobbing quietly. I walk out of the bedroom, leaving her alone, and head downstairs. I pour myself a drink, the alcohol burning as it slides down my throat. I stare out the window, my mind racing, but I don't know what to think anymore. I thought this would make me feel better, that it would give me some sense of closure, but it hasn't. If anything, I feel worse, like I've lost something I can't get back. Jessica comes downstairs a few minutes later, dressed in a robe, her face pale, eyes red. She looks at me, but I can't meet her gaze. I feel like a monster, but I don't know how to stop. I'm sorry, she whispers, her voice barely audible. I don't respond. I don't know what to say. There's nothing left to say. She stands there for a moment, then turns and walks out the door. I hear her car start, the engine fading as she drives away. I don't try to stop her. Hours pass. The house is dark, empty. I sit in the silence, the drink in my hand, wondering if this is it, if this is all there is. I've destroyed her, just like I wanted, but it hasn't brought me the peace I thought it would. If anything, it's made everything worse. Then the phone rings. I stare at it, the sound cutting through the silence, echoing in the empty house. I know who it is. I know what they want. I pick up the phone, my hand shaking. I listen to the voice on the other end, my heart pounding in my chest. They've found the evidence I planted. They've found John. It's done. There's no turning back now. But as I hang up the phone, I realize something. I've won, but I've lost everything. I've destroyed them, but I've destroyed myself too. The aftermath of that night lingers in the air like a toxic fog. John is out of the picture, dragged into a legal nightmare that I orchestrated. The police found the documents I planted, connecting him to offshore accounts, illegal dealings. His world is crumbling, just as I intended, but there's no satisfaction in it, no sense of victory. I watch from a distance as his life unravels, the man who smirked at me now scrambling to save himself. It should feel good, but all I feel is emptiness. Jessica doesn't come home. She's left, probably for good, and I don't know if I care. I tell myself it's what I wanted, to be rid of her after everything she did, but the silence of the house gnaws at me. I've won, haven't I? But the triumph I imagined isn't there. I've destroyed them, but in the process I've destroyed myself. The phone rings constantly. Lawyers, police, reporters. They all want something, and I give them nothing. I ignore the calls, let them pile up until the phone stops ringing altogether. The media is all over John's downfall, turning his life into a public spectacle. They don't know I'm behind it all, and that's how I want it. I stay in the shadows, watching as my plans come to fruition. But with each passing day, the sense of accomplishment fades, replaced by something darker. I've burned my bridges, every single one. Friends, family, they all look at me differently now, those who still bother to look at all. The suspicion in their eyes, the unspoken questions, it's all there weighing on me like a suffocating blanket. They don't know the details, but they sense something has changed in me, something they can't understand. I'm not the man they once knew, and maybe that's for the best. One night I sit in the darkened living room, a glass of whiskey in hand, the bottle almost empty. I've been drinking more lately, trying to drown the thoughts that won't leave me alone. But no matter how much I drink, the memories stay, vivid and haunting. The look on Jessica's face when I left her alone in that bed, the way her body trembled beneath mine as I took what I thought was mine by right, the way John's smirk turned to terror when the police came for him. I can't escape it, no matter how hard I try. The doorbell rings, startling me. I glance at the clock, past midnight. I get up, the room spinning slightly as I make my way to the door. When I open it, I'm not surprised to see Jessica standing there, her face pale, eyes hollow. She looks like she's been crying, but I don't feel anything. No sympathy, no anger, just a numbness that's become all too familiar. "What do you want?" I ask, my voice flat. She steps inside without waiting for an invitation, her eyes scanning the room, taking in the empty bottles, the mess I've let the house become. "We need to talk," she says quietly, her voice trembling. I shut the door, leaning against it. "About what?" There's nothing left to say. She turns to face me, and for the first time, I see the fear in her eyes, the uncertainty. "I know what you did, Tom." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I don't let it show. I keep my expression neutral, my tone calm. "I don't know what you're talking about." She shakes her head, tears spilling over. "Don't lie to me. I know you set John up. I know you planted those documents. You've destroyed his life." "Good," I say, the words slipping out before I can stop it. "He deserved it." She flinches, like I've struck her. "And what about me? Do I deserve this too?" I push off the door, walking past her into the living room, needing to put some distance between us. I don't want to see her cry. "You made your choice, Jessica. You knew what you were doing." She follows me, her voice rising in desperation. "And you didn't? You planned all of this, didn't you? From the moment you saw us, you've been plotting your revenge." I whirl around to face her, the anger flaring up again. "What did you expect me to do? Just forgive and forget? Pretend it never happened? You betrayed me." Her shoulders slump, the fight draining out of her. "I know, and I'm sorry. But this," she gestures around the room at the remnants of our life together. "This isn't who you are, Tom. This isn't the man I fell in love with." I laugh, a harsh, bitter sound. "Maybe that's because the man you fell in love with doesn't exist anymore. You killed him the moment you climbed into that pool with John." She looks at me, her eyes pleading. "You're wrong. He's still in there. I know he is. We can fix this, Tom. We can start over. I shake my head, the anger giving way to something colder, more final. No, we can't. It's too late for that. She stares at me, her expression crumbling as the truth sinks in. There's no going back, no fixing what's been broken. She turns and walks to the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. I loved you, she whispers, her voice thick with emotion. I still do. And then she's gone, the door closing softly behind her, leaving me alone in the empty house. I stand there for a long time, staring at the door, her words echoing in my mind. Loved, past tense. I take another drink, but it doesn't help. Nothing helps. The days blur together after that. I go through the motions, but it's like I'm sleepwalking, disconnected from everything around me. I thought I could rebuild my life, start over, but the darkness lingers, a constant presence that I can't shake. I've lost everything. My wife, my friends, my sense of self, and there's no getting it back. Then the knock on the door comes. I open it to find two detectives standing there, their expressions grim. They ask to come in, and I know what they're going to say before they even open their mouths. John's body was found this morning, an apparent suicide. The detectives have questions, of course. They want to know about my relationship with him, about the events leading up to his death. I answer their questions carefully, sticking to the story I've rehearsed in my mind 1,000 times. They seem to believe me, but there's something in their eyes, a doubt that lingers. As they leave, one of them turns back, his gaze sharp, assessing. If you think of anything else, Mr. Clark, give us a call. I nod, closing the door behind them, but I know it's not over. Not by a long shot. They'll be back. They're watching me now, just like I watched John. I sit down, my mind racing. John's death was supposed to be the final piece of the puzzle, the moment when everything fell into place. But it's only made things worse. Now I'm the one under scrutiny, the one being watched, and I know I'm not prepared for what's coming. I've lost control, and it terrifies me. I was so focused on revenge, on making them pay, that I didn't see the trap I was walking into. And now it's closing in on me, tightening like a noose around my neck. I think about Jessica, about the way she looked at me that last night. Maybe she was right. Maybe the man she loved is still in here somewhere, buried beneath the anger and the pain. But I don't know how to find him, how to bring him back. The phone rings, jarring me out of my thoughts. I pick it up, my hand shaking. It's Jessica. Her voice is strained, like she's been crying. Tom, we need to talk. I can't do this anymore. I close my eyes, the weight of everything pressing down on me. What do you want, Jessica? I want to help you, she says, her voice breaking, but you have to let me in. I don't respond. The words caught my throat. She waits, but when I don't say anything, she sighs, the sound filled with resignation. I'll be at the house tomorrow. Please, Tom, don't shut me out. She hangs up, and I'm left staring at the phone, her words ringing in my ears. Help. The idea is almost laughable. How can she help me when I don't even know how to help myself? I put the phone down and walk to the window, looking out at the empty street. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the lawn. The darkness is coming, and I don't know if I'll be able to face it alone. But as I stand there, a thought occurs to me. Maybe I don't have to face it alone. Maybe, just maybe, there's a way out of this mess. A way to make things right, to start over. But it won't be easy. It'll take everything I have, and then some. And even then, there's no guarantee it'll work. But it's a chance, a slim one, but a chance nonetheless. And right now, that's all I've got. The days after Jessica's call blur into a haze of anxiety and regret. She said she wanted to help, but I'm not sure what that means. Can anything help now? The detectives keep circling, their questions more pointed each time they come around. They're not saying it outright, but I can feel it. I'm their prime suspect in John's death. They're just waiting for me to slip up, for one piece of evidence to tie it all together. Every time I see a police car drive by, my heart races. The paranoia is getting worse, creeping into every corner of my mind. I can't trust anyone, not even myself. I haven't slept properly in days. Every sound in the night pulling me back to full alertness. I keep expecting to hear that knock on the door, to see them standing there with a warrant in hand, but it doesn't come. Not yet. Jessica arrives the next day, just like she said she would. She looks tired, worn down by everything that's happened. I watch her as she steps inside, her movements slow and cautious, like she's not sure if she's welcome. I don't know if she is either, but I don't have the energy to fight anymore. Tom, she starts, but I hold up a hand. Let's just get this over with, I say, my voice flat. She nods, following me into the living room. We sit across from each other, the silence between us heavy. I can't bring myself to look her in the eye. Too much has happened, and there's no going back. But she's here, and that has to mean something. They're watching me, I say, breaking the silence. The police. They think I had something to do with John's death. Jessica's face pales and she leans forward, her voice trembling. Tom, did you? No, I cut her off sharply, but they won't believe that. They're looking for anything to pin this on me. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself. What do we do? We? The word tastes bitter in my mouth. I'm the one they're after. I'm the one who's going to pay for this. Then let me help, she pleads, her eyes desperate. We can figure this out together. I'll tell them everything I know, that you had nothing to do with it. I shake my head, the hopelessness settling in. It won't matter. They'll twist it, make it fit their narrative. John's dead, Jessica. Someone's got to pay for that. She reaches out, grabbing my hand. It's the first time she's touched me since that night. Her hand is warm, so in a reminder of what we used to have. I want to pull away, but I don't. I can't. I'm not going to let them take you, she says, her voice fierce. I won't let this destroy you. I finally meet her eyes, searching for something, hope maybe, or a way out of this mess. But all I see is the same desperation that's been haunting me for weeks. She's scared, just like I am, but she's trying. Maybe that's enough. We talk for hours, going over everything that's happened, everything I've done. She listens, nodding, asking questions, but she doesn't judge. Not anymore. It's like she's finally seeing me for who I am, flaws and all. By the time we're done, the sun is setting, casting long shadows across the room. I feel lighter, like a weight has been lifted off my chest. Maybe this is what I needed, to let someone in, to share the burden. But as night falls, the fear creeps back in. Jessica stays, insisting on it, but I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. She's in the guest room just down the hall, but I can't sleep. I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. What if this doesn't work? What if the police don't buy it? What if they come for me anyway? I get up, pacing the house, the silence oppressive. I find myself standing outside the guest room, listening to Jessica's soft breathing. For a moment, I consider waking her, but what would I say? That I'm scared? That I don't know what to do? She already knows that. Instead, I go downstairs, pouring myself a drink. The alcohol burns as it goes down, but it doesn't help. It never does. I sit in the dark, the house too quiet, too still. I can't shake the feeling that someone's watching me, that any moment the door will burst open and it'll all be over. Jessica finds me there in the morning, slumped over on the couch, the empty glass still in my hand. She doesn't say anything, just sits beside me, her presence a small comfort in the chaos. We don't talk about the night before, about the fear that's eating away at both of us. There's nothing left to say. The next few days pass in a blur. Jessica stays, helping me clean up the house, trying to bring some semblance of normalcy back into our lives. But it's a losing battle. The detectives come by again, their questions sharper, more pointed. They're circling closer, and I know my time is running out. Then one evening, the phone rings. It's not the police this time, but someone else. A voice I don't recognize, cold and menacing. They know what I've done. They know everything. And they're coming for me. I hang up, my hands shaking. Jessica's in the kitchen, and I can feel her eyes on me, but I can't bring myself to look at her. Whoever this is, they've been watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. And now they're ready. They know, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. Jessica rushes over, her eyes wide with fear. Who? Who knows? I don't know, I admit, the panic rising. But they know everything. They're coming. She grabs my arm, trying to ground me. We need to go to the police. Tell them what's happening. They can protect us. I shake my head, the fear overwhelming me. No, they'll think it's just another lie, another distraction. We're on our own. She doesn't argue, but I can see the doubt in her eyes. I don't have time to convince her. We need to move now. We spend the night packing, gathering what little we can carry. I don't know where we're going, just that we need to disappear, to get out of here before it's too late. Jessica doesn't question me, just follows my lead, her trust in me a fragile thing. We leave before dawn, the city still asleep as we drive through the empty streets. My mind is racing, trying to think of where we can go, who we can trust. But the truth is there's no one left. I've burned every bridge, cut every tie. We're alone in this. As we drive, the reality of what's happening starts to sink in. We're running, not just from the police, but from whoever is out there waiting for their chance to strike. I glance at Jessica, her face pale in the early morning light. She's scared, but she's with me. Maybe that's enough. We find a motel off the highway, the kind of place where no one asks questions. Jessica checks us in, her hands trembling as she hands over the cash. I wait in the car, my eyes scanning the parking lot, searching for any sign of danger. But there's nothing, just the quiet hum of the neon sign flickering above the office. In the room, we sit in silence, the weight of everything pressing down on us. I can't stop thinking about that phone call, the voice that knew too much. How long do we have before they find us? A day, maybe two? Jessica lies down on the bed, her body tense, every muscle coiled with fear. I sit beside her, my hand on her back, trying to offer some comfort, but it feels hollow. How did we end up here? How did everything go so wrong? The night drags on, every creak of the motel settling, making my heart race. I sit by the window, the curtains drawn, watching the parking lot. Every car that pulls in, every set of headlights that pass by, sends a jolt of fear through me. We're sitting ducks here, waiting for the inevitable. By morning, I'm a wreck. I haven't slept, haven't eaten. Jessica tries to get me to eat something, but I can't. The only thing I can think about is getting out, putting as much distance between us and whatever's coming. But as I reach for the door, ready to leave, Jessica stops me. We can't keep running, Tom. We have to face this. I turn to Meister, my voice raw with fear. And do what? Walk into a police station and tell them everything? They won't believe us. They'll lock me up and throw away the key. She shakes her head, her eyes determined. Maybe, but if we keep running, we'll never stop. They'll find us no matter where we go. We have to try. I stare at her, the words sinking in. She's right. We can't keep running. But facing this means admitting everything, letting go of the lies I've wrapped myself in. Can I do that? Can I give up the last shred of control I have? But then I realize I don't have a choice. If we keep running, we'll never stop. And if we stop, they'll find us anyway. This is the only way out. I nod, the decision made. Okay, let's do it. Jessica squeezes my hand, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and hope. We'll get through this, Tom. Together. And for the first time in what feels like forever, I believe her. I sit in the cold, sterile room, my hands clasped together, knuckles white. The trial is over. The jury delivered their verdict. Guilty, but not for John's death. They pinned me for obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, and a host of other charges that my lawyer had warned me about, but I never fully believed would stick. The sentence isn't life, but it might as well be. My reputation is in shreds, my career destroyed, my life a wreckage of what it once was. Jessica didn't testify against me. In the end, she couldn't bring herself to do it, but she didn't stand by me either. She sat in the back of the courtroom every day, her face a mask of pain and regret, but she never once looked me in the eye. I can't blame her. I made sure there was nothing left of the man she once loved. I destroyed him, along with everything else. As they led me away from the courthouse, I saw them. The reporters, the onlookers, the vultures waiting for a glimpse of my downfall. They shouted questions, thrust microphones in my face, but I didn't say a word. What was there to say? I've played my part, and now the curtain's closing. Back in my cell, the hours drag by. The silence is suffocating, the walls closing in. I can't stop thinking about the past few months, about how it all started with that one moment of betrayal. If I could go back, would I do anything differently? Part of me wants to say yes, but I know the truth. I was too far gone, too consumed by the need for revenge to see any other way out. I replay everything in my head, the lessons, the manipulation, the way I twisted myself into someone unrecognizable. I thought I was in control, thought I could bend the world to my will, but I was wrong, so wrong. In the end, I became the very thing I hated most, and now I'm paying the price. Jessica visits once. It's awkward, painful, and over too quickly. She doesn't stay long, just enough to tell me she's moving on, that she's trying to rebuild her life. I nod, tell her I understand, but inside I feel a deep, aching void where my heart used to be. She leaves, and I know it's the last time I'll ever see her. The days turn into weeks, the weeks into months. Time loses meaning in here. I get letters sometimes, mostly from people I don't know, telling me what a monster I am, how I got what I deserved. I don't respond. What would be the point? Then one day I get a different kind of letter. It's from someone who knows too much, someone who's been watching. The letter is short, cryptic, but the message is clear. I'm not done paying for what I've done. It's a threat, a promise that there's more to come, and it chills me to the bone. I don't know who sent it, but I can guess. Someone out there, someone I didn't see coming, is still playing the game. I lie awake that night, staring at the ceiling, the words of the letter running through my mind. I thought I was the master of this game, thought I had outsmarted them all, but now I realize I was just a pawn. There's always someone watching, someone waiting to take you down when you least expect it. In the morning, I request a transfer to another facility, but it's denied. They tell me it's nothing to worry about, that I'm safe where I am, but I know better. I can feel the walls closing in, the noose tightening. Whoever sent that letter isn't done with me yet. I try to focus on the future, on what little of it I have left. I think about getting out, about trying to build something new from the ashes of my life. But the darkness inside me, the thing that drove me to destroy everything, it's still there, lurking in the shadows. I don't know if I can ever escape it. Maybe I don't want to. The days grow colder, the nights longer. The other inmates steer clear of me, sensing the storm brewing beneath the surface. I keep to myself, lost in my thoughts, waiting for the inevitable. The letter was a warning, a promise that my story isn't over yet. And then one night, it happens. The door to my cell creaks open, the faint sound barely breaking the silence. I sit up, my heart pounding in my chest. I know who it is before I even see them. They've come to collect, to make good on their promise. I see the silhouette in the doorway, the figure stepping into the dim light. It's a face I recognize, a face that haunts my nightmares. They smile, that same cold smile I've seen before, the one that tells me this is the end. But instead of fear, I feel something else, relief. Maybe this is what I deserve, the final reckoning for everything I've done. I close my eyes, ready to face whatever comes next. The darkness closes in, and I welcome it. But before the final moment, there's a whisper, a voice in my ear. This isn't the end, Tom, not yet. I open my eyes, but the room is empty. The figure is gone, the door to my cell closed. I'm alone again, but the words linger, echoing in the silence. This isn't the end, not yet. I don't know what it means, but I know one thing for certain. I'm not done paying for my sins. There's more to come, more pain, more darkness. And in a twisted way, I'm ready for it. I deserve it. I lie back down, staring at the ceiling, the shadows dancing above me. The game isn't over, not by a long shot. The past will always haunt me, a ghost I can never escape. But somewhere deep down, a part of me is satisfied. I wanted revenge and I got it. But the cost was higher than I ever imagined. As I close my eyes, I feel a twisted sense of peace. Whatever comes next, I'll face it. Because in the end, there's nothing left to lose. The past is a weight I'll carry forever, but it's mine, and I own it. And as the darkness finally takes me, I know one thing: I'm ready for whatever comes next.